Hi, everybody. My name is Carrie. I'm the senior editor at AccountingWEB. As you might already know, we're hosting our first ever AccountingWEB Live Summit this May from the 9th to the 12th at Paradise Point in San Diego. In the weeks leading up to the conference, we've started sitting down with some of our fantastic speakers. Today, I'm talking with Will Baker, who's co-hosting How Technology Broke Public Accounting and giving the solo session Understanding and Solving the Capacity Problem. So, Will, I first wanted to start off by talking about why you wanted to be part of the first conference hosted by AccountingWEB and why you're excited about the show.
Yeah, I mean, from just for our standpoint, AccountingWEB was and has been a really great friend to us getting started. When you're a startup and you have a new product and a new idea in the space, you can kind of sound like a crazy guy on a soapbox in a corner for a long time. But AccountingWEB has started giving us a platform and, helping, spread awareness for who we are. And so we were eager to, return the favor, to return that type of help, knowing what it takes to get something going off the ground, whether it be a conference or a company. We were, first and foremost, just like eager. The minute the conversation started, we wanted to be involved and we wanted to help. And so I know that Ford and I and just really all of our team are really appreciative of the people at AccountingWEB. And in terms of excitement about the show, I mean, it's just kind of an all-star lineup of speakers. There's a lot of really, really talented, really, really knowledgeable people that are going to be at this conference. People that you see at a lot of the big AICPA events, and people that I think are worth traveling for, worth going to see. They're friends of ours for sure, some of them, and some of them we never met. So it's a little weird being like, oh my gosh, like I'm in the same lineup with them because I'm not at all qualified for that. But that's what I'm really excited about. I think the sessions are going to be really strong. And then it's just a beautiful spot. I mean,
Yeah,
it definitely beats in my opinion, beats the heck out of Vegas, which there's a lot of conferences in Vegas that we're going to this year. And so this is the one that we're like, this one seems like it's also going to be a little bit of a vacation. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, the venue was great when they showed us what they had chosen. I was like, oh my God, really, for a conference? Because usually they just they find a hotel and the hotels are great. No complaints. But it's in a regular like convention hall. And I was also going to say that, yeah, I remember talking with you guys like a year and a half ago or something when when you were Bacotech and now you're Accounting, and we were looking for a way that we could work together. And it took us some time to find one, but like you guys definitely know about like being like the first one at the gate the first time and trying to like build up a following and stuff. So we really appreciate that. You've come on to our and you're giving two sessions, one solo and one with your dad and colleague Ford Baker. So I thought it would be great for the any listeners to hear a little bit about what we've got to look forward to from each session. I know I've seen I've seen Ford give the presentation before on how technology broke public accounting, and it's really fascinating. So I'd love to hear how you guys updated that for 2022.
Yeah, so I mean, and we have a we just as a company are like constantly operating under the principle of how can we do it better? How can we improve? And that goes from, it really is the only way for us to survive right now because, we've never been in this space from an accounting tech. We've learned that we're terrible salespeople. And so we've had to hire salespeople and, we're just learning a lot. And so the ways that it changes, I mean, I think the messaging is very similar for how accounting technology broke public accounting. But it's definitely going to be a lot more refined. What Ford brings, and in this session I play just a lot more of an MC, kind of bouncing questions off them at certain points. And
Yeah, when I
so,
saw this is definitely Ford's wheelhouse, and
yeah,
for
this one, I mean,
foremost, it's
it's very, it's not very technical. It is a little technical.
mm.
We focus a lot in on issues that exist within a tax workflow,
Not in
within
a way that's not understandable though, because I'm not an
no, no,
accountant.
no, no, of course not. No, no, no. I mean, it's we definitely try and bring it down to earth, but really just
Mhm.
kind of like identify the key problems that, CPA firms typically face, especially when it comes to, just kind of working with client data,
Mhm.
which is our bread and butter as a tech company.
Yeah.
Um, the tension that we always run is, or the goal of all of these is to really show, especially how accounting technology broke public accounting. The message that we try to communicate in that is not, hey, how accounting technology broke public accounting, and guess what? Once accounting fixes it, what we're really trying to communicate is, hey, the power to fix your workflow
Mhm.
exists within your CPA firm. You have the resources, you have the tools, you have the people. It just takes the right type of ideas, and it takes, follow through. There's a lot of, um, repetition of the same process, especially in, a compliance based industry like tax.
Mhm.
There's a lot of repetition of process, and change requires you to look outside that. And so what we hope, um, really for how accounting technology broke public accounting, and for my session as well, we hope that it encourages a little bit of outside the box thinking. I
Mhm.
think if you're talking kind of like what's a common trend in both,
Yeah.
and something that you just kind of see across the industry, is just the need for innovation. Period. Um, so I'm
Totally
excited to
agree
be
with
able
that.
to.
It's one of the themes of our accounting. It's actually one of the reasons when I put the content agenda together that or like I led it. I didn't put it together. It was a team.
Yep.
But we looked for sessions that would lead the conversation. Previous conferences started conversations about
Hmm.
things like capacity management and
Hmm.
how technology can assist accounting better. And you recently wrote an article for us about capacity management, and I thought your take
Hmm.
was really interesting, and featured a lot about outside the box thinking. And it also relates to something that you and I talk about relatively often, I guess. We both made it one of our goals to ensure conferences like the Live Summit and informational websites like AccountingWEB reach out to millennials and Gen Z and include them in their needs more, because they are going to be, the future people who attend, or even the current people who attend these
Hmm.
conferences. And you mentioned in conversations with me that you believe this will also solve the capacity problem. So can you talk about your solo section a little bit more now, and also why reaching out to a younger crowd, and innovating for, I guess, away from just the usual is so important.
Yeah. So not to just give away the entirety of what we're going to talk about, not like there's a big twist or anything. Um, the main driver of what I what I've seen in capacity conversations, um, thus far, is it's driven around the people, which is very relevant. It's very true, and it's, in order to address capacity, you do need more people, um, but I don't believe that it's going to solve the problems in the way that they hope. I don't think that the capacity issue is simply an issue of lack of people doing the work.
Mhm.
And I think that most thought leaders and industry leaders don't think that as well. But we spend a
Right,
lot of
because instead of
time.
hiring other people, or just more people, and found that it doesn't completely solve the problem.
Right. We spend a lot of time talking about how, as an industry, from what I've observed, we spend a lot of time talking about targeting and hiring and retention and recruiting and culture. Um, and I think what is needed is a degree of outside the box thinking.
Mhm.
And so, when you're talking about the necessity of bringing in younger staff, younger employees, that is not just essential to address some capacity issues. It's just essential for the industry to survive. Like if you're a small CPA firm and you've run your firm, for instance, like my father, who's run his own firm for 30 years now, succession planning is key, or else it's just going to get bought by a bigger firm. And so, not that that's a bad thing. If you want to go sell your CPA firm, that's fine. But if you have a firm, having succession plan is such a key thing. And so obviously bringing in youth is key for that, to be able to pass the keys, hand off.
Actually, a session on succession planning led by Bill Carlino. So
yeah, and so there's a ton of need there, and I think also what is so crucial about bringing in youth is they're likely more interested in looking towards a new way of doing things.
Hey, you mentioned there
Especially
was new work that came to CPAs from the pandemic.
Mhm.
Well, you mentioned there's a lot of new work that came to CPAs from the
Yep.
pandemic.
Yeah. So there's a ton of, when you're talking about capacity, you're talking about bringing in new people. You're talking
Mhm.
about, the way that I'll put it in the session is we look at capacity as a two-sided issue where there's too much work and not enough people. But in reality, if we bring in more people, the trend for the industry is new work coming in.
Mhm.
Obviously, PPP loans, all the consulting work that CPAs that
Yeah,
may have never
that's
done that type of work was a huge influx of new work. But
yeah.
there's a ton of stuff. We have the privilege of being in the AI CPA and CPA.com startup accelerator. So we spent a couple days in New York a few weeks ago with all of the cohort members, and there's a whole kind of industry segment that is being worked out in ESG, which is environmental social governance. There's new tech that's
Yeah.
being innovated into that space. You're hearing conversation about SEC regulations on businesses for ESG, for emissions reporting, and the AICPA is working to kind of corner that market. And so that's going to be a whole new segment of work that requires more people. And so if you're sitting there thinking that bringing in enough people is going to address your capacity, what's likely going to happen is that you're just going to get more work. You're going to bring in more people and you're going to get more work, and you're going to realize that you still have that capacity problem. And so I I think when you're looking at bringing in youth, it's essential. All of the things that we talk about with people and capacity, with recruiting, with
Mhm.
HR, with all of that,
You'll
totally
also get
essential.
new ideas with younger people also,
Of
which
course,
might help with
there's
workflow and the way that you do things.
when you're looking at the industry, when you're looking at the younger trends, we are seeing trends. They talked about this at Digital CPA. We're
Mhm.
seeing trends in deferred enrollment. We're seeing trends in less people going and getting their professional licensure in public accounting. So we're seeing some
Mhm.
trends going down, and yet we're being told go get more people. They're not there. So we have to start thinking outside the box of how we're going to handle these problems. And I think what's interesting is that more and more and more, when you look at what I would say these younger, smaller CPA firms,
Mhm.
they have some outside the box type roles that you may have not see a typical CPA firm, especially a smaller one. Like ops directors are a lot more common, whether it be a project manager or a director of operations or a chief
Mhm.
operating officer, whatever you want to call it. Someone that's really coming in and running the day to day of the business and not doing much with clients. We were sitting down with a guy this week, and I asked him, I was like, what is your job as a director of operations at a CPA firm? He was like, I basically do everything to help make sure the company runs on a day to day basis so that our accountants can focus on accounting, that our tax managers can help run taxes, that our CEO and sales team can sell. And you think about that, that's a way to
Mhm.
address capacity with people. Bringing in
Yeah,
someone
that's a
that
really
is not
interesting and new perspective for sure. Could
well, and
also
it
combine
it
with a new
it
conference
it
for some
makes
growing
a
new ideas.
yeah, it makes a lot of sense
Yeah, it
from
does.
any standpoint. You know, especially if you start looking at these what these you know tasks that CPAs do, um, for the most part, are projects. And so there is, with the exception of, what I would say is probably like client things that are doing like day-to-day bookkeeping,
Mhm.
that's kind of ongoing. There is typically due dates, there's typically closures, there's typically filing deadlines, and so there's projects. And having someone that's in charge of managing that process, of keeping a cadence for those things, will just help alleviate pressure. And they don't have to have an accounting background in order to start doing that. Obviously, you probably want them to have
Right.
knowledge of accounting, but they don't necessarily have to be a CPA. They don't necessarily have to have, some crazy amount of bookkeeping experience, because you
Mhm.
can put that person in charge of a lot of other things that alleviate pressure off of you. And I think that's especially relevant for smaller CPA firms where, I
I
think
would
about my
certainly
dad.
agree with that. A lot of
Yeah,
small CPA firms make up our audience as well. Well, I don't want to give your whole talk away, so I
sure.
will just say to everybody that please come and attend the Accounting Web Live Summit and hear new perspectives, like Will's interesting perspective that makes a
Yeah.
whole lot of sense. Is there anything final that you'd like to tell anybody who's listening about why they should attend the live summit and come and see everybody?
Yeah. I mean, I especially, for myself, when it comes to Accounting Web, I'm really appreciative of what you guys are doing. I think that you have a good finger on the pulse of things, and if nothing else, you are listening. Um, not to We have relationships with a lot of the other publications.
Mhm.
They're all great. We have had a much more interactive relationship with you, and I know that we're not the only one that feel that. And so, from our standpoint, we're just really grateful, and we think that this is a healthy place for CPAs to come, because we want to open up a dialogue. We think this is a healthy place for accountants to come,
Yes, we're
because
both.
we're looking, or you guys are looking to actually not necessarily point someone in a direction to go, but have a dialogue, have a conversation, and learn. And so I'm more excited than anything for that. I love going to conferences. There's great sessions. Ed Kless is going to lead a session for you guys. We love
Yes,
Ed.
yes.
He's up the road from us, here in Dallas, and so we see him pretty routinely. Ford was on his podcast last week. I believe Jeannie Whitehouse is involved in this too. She's a great friend of
Sure.
ours, and so there's
Leading,
just a lot of people.
actually, on moderating a panel,
Hmm.
easy ways to fall in love with your practice again. And she'll also be speaking on a panel about niches. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
Everybody, make sure you go to our website, accountingwebLiveSummit.com, to take advantage of registration and to find out more about the venue, which is Paradise Point in San Diego, California. And we hope to see you May 9th to 12th.
thanks for having me, Carrie.